Welcome to Eternal Dread, where fear never sleeps. Tell us where you're watching from, and what time it is, because terror has no limits. If you're brave enough, share and comment, but beware, something might be watching you too. Now, turn off the lights, and let the dread begin. I'm an absolute freak for horror. Ever since I was just a little kid, I've been obsessed. My parents used to find me with my nose damn near pressed to the TV in the middle of the night, watching scary movies at low volume to not wake them. Sure, I got scolded, but I later discovered that both of them found it cute. The fascination never really stopped. As a middle schooler, I was always the one showing creepy online videos to my classmates and telling scary stories around the flickering campfire in summertime. There were a number of kids wherever I went, whether it was school or summer camp, who really came to dislike me. I gave them nightmares, instilled the fear of the boogeyman in them, made them question the long shadows cast in the corner of their rooms at nighttime. Soon enough, everyone just started calling me Spooky Lucy. As far as nicknames go, it could have been a lot worse. I almost wished it was a bit cooler, but it stuck. It still sticks even now. Everyone just calls me Spooky. When I got old enough to have real friends, the kind of friends that you actually bond over stuff with instead of just playing together in the park because your parents tolerate each other enough to sit on a bench together, things changed. I didn't have much in the way of IRL friends. Pretty much just my buddy Mike that I met way back in grade school. But I started making real friends online on Reddit. I joined all of the horror forums, but the only one that really pertains to this story is our /scary stories. This shit was a whole new world. Reading hundreds of thousands of stories written by independent authors. Hidden gems that I would never find on store shelves. It was heaven. My friends would always send me whichever ones they thought were cool or stupid. Some of my favorite pieces of horror literature ever have come from that place and other Reddit forums. I can say now that I've been through a lot of horrific shit in my life, and yet I still consume some form of horror-related media every day. I can't help it. It's in my bones. I mentioned online friends before. In particular, I'm in a Discord server with a few other horror fans. Notably, there's Mike, Shawnee, Liv, Leica, Shredder, and Ghosty. Fuck, did these people get me through some shit. As things usually go for weird kid teens, my life wasn't that easy. Things get lonely when your only tangible real-world friend is such a recluse that he's out of school almost as much as he's in it. I was alone and fending for myself, and the bullies and cliquey girls could smell the vulnerability on me like sharks in the water. Depression set in soon after, and I felt a general distaste for life setting in like a bad smell in a carpet. Adults would tell me it would get better in my 20s, like that was supposed to make me feel any better. They all helped me beyond measure, but I'd say I owe the most to Leica. Obviously, that's not her real name. Her username was Leica722 pretty much everywhere. I don't exactly remember how we met, but I know that I wouldn't be who I am today if it weren't for her. I know her real name, but it feels inappropriate to share it. Leica was a private person, and I don't want anyone to be able to find her online. Maybe that seems like a given on the internet, but after everything that's happened, it's hard to keep myself from spilling the truth, just so someone can hear me. Don't bother looking up her username. You won't find much more than some random Instagram account that isn't her, and maybe an old Flash game she made if you look hard enough. I doubt it though. Don't try Reddit either, as all of her usernames on here are randomly generated. About a year ago, Leica fell off the face of the earth. Her Discord was gone, her Reddit stories and Flash games were all wiped, everything was just gone. Immediately I feared the worst. Leica was troubled, for sure. I know her mental health wasn't exactly stable, nor was life with her horrible family. College seemed to be helping her, but obviously the first thing all of us thought was that she had taken her life. Even if that was the case, I would have preferred learning that to not knowing anything at all. She was strange and a bit dark, speaking in run-on poetic sentences that made no sense half of the time. But that's just who she was. She was like me, my twin flame. Losing her was the second worst thing that had ever happened to me. Not knowing what happened to her at all was the worst. I loved Leica more than anything in this world. We used to fall asleep on the phone together, or on a video call just so we could watch each other sleep. To see the other's chest rise and fall, and listen to the soft sounds of breathing on the other line. Sometimes Leica would talk in her sleep. I never knew what she was saying because I don't speak her native language, but I liked to listen. She was everything to me, everything and more. Our friend group was devastated. I had been given the privilege of being closest to her, so everyone thought I would have all the information. And they begged me for it. They begged for some little key to breaking open the mystery of where she had gone. I so badly wished that I could tell them that I did have those answers. I can't count the amount of times I've panned through thousands upon thousands of our messages together, searching for even the tiniest thing I had missed. There had to be something. I couldn't rest until I found something. It took a few months, but eventually I did. Our little group stayed together through the hardships. No one else ever found anything, but that never stopped them from looking. We even found her old YouTube account and messaged all 5 of her subscribers about her whereabouts. But no one had even known Laika personally. It was dead end after dead end, but we never stopped. Eventually the weight of the real world forced us to kind of move on. I was a senior in college at that point, working on my senior project, a shitty B-list horror movie that was almost too fun to make. I still talked to my friends all the time, but we didn't have the time or the energy to keep chasing rabbit holes and then wrestling with the inevitable disappointment. So every night I would open up Discord, call with my friends, share stories around, and watch movies with them. My routine was simple and familiar. If I changed it, I might have lost my mind. Being with these people was as close as I could possibly be to the love of my life. People tell you it's weird or dangerous to fall in love online. I personally don't believe that. But even if it were true, I would still choose Laika no matter what. I would live through it all again, even knowing that she would disappear and break my heart. I would find Laika in any lifetime, I really would. I like to think she would do the same. One day, Shawnee sent me a message with a link to a story. Holy shit, dude, you gotta read this one, it's crazy. Obviously I was gonna click it, but before I even had the chance to open it, Shredder was messaging me too. Hey R, thought you might like this one. Best stuff I've read in a while. They had both sent me the same story. 7591 by user from Thyri. It's not up anymore. I don't think it ever really was. There was nothing there. The page was just an empty, not an error page. Just a completely empty body in the place where the story would be. WTF LOL, I responded. Before I could do anything else, a third friend messaged me. It was the exact same link. Discord user you need to read this story, oh my god XD, was what Liv texted me. Please don't make fun of her for the way she types, by the way. We have tried and failed. She's a sensitive girl. I don't know why I bothered clicking it again. I had already seen it. To absolutely nobody's surprise, it was the exact same. Except for one detail. When I scrolled all the way down, the word hello was written at the very bottom. I wondered if this was meant to be part of the scare. Maybe it was supposed to make me feel like I was going crazy. If that was the goal, it was working. If one more of you freaks, send me a link to that 7591 story in Coming W the Cleaver. That was my message in the server we shared. Joking around with them in our usual macabre way was all I could really think of doing. It was such a small thing, a little internet trick that could probably be easily explained, but it put me in a deep sense of unease. It was the first time in a very long time that anything horror-related made me feel true dread, and I couldn't even explain why. But I swear it's good, just trust me, I'm a Paul or I'm a pal, Shawnee responded. Oh, this one. I just read it, it's great. WYTB sent Ghosty, with that link again. I clicked it. Now I just really wanted to know what sort of elaborate troll this was. Invested, I scrolled through the blank space again, to see if anything had changed. Hello was gone. Now it was just R in the middle of the page, alone in the void like a tiny island in an endless sea of white. IT just says, or why are you trolling? I hastily replied, not even bothering to fix the typos. It felt like it was calling out to me. Reasonably, I shouldn't have felt that way. It's just one letter out of 26 letters in the alphabet. It's not like the letter R automatically refers to me. I promise I'm not some sort of egomaniac. But there was just something about it, as though the page itself had a voice that was calling to me specifically. What it's like, ABT, a girl with a bunch of eyes, it's so cool, said Liv, with her typing style that hadn't changed since 2012. What LOL? It was about a submarine that comes across a big-ass humanoid skeleton that only had lungs underwater, responded Shredder. The chat exploded with messages from different friends who had all clicked on this link. Ghosty claimed the story was about a newspaper documenting some cannibal cult. Shawnee said it was about an old man haunted by his dog. And even Mike had his own take, saying it was about a guy and a girl who could only communicate through dreams. They all sent the exact same link, but each one had read a completely different story. I refreshed the link again while the notifications came flooding in. I was frustrated. Even through that dread, I so badly wanted to read the stories they were talking about, because they all sounded fascinating. I wished that I could see any story on that web page, anything to pull me out of the anxious chill running through my body. But no such luck. Still just blank space. The only change was that now the R had moved to the top of the page. "You are all stupid, bye," I responded, closing Discord and muting it to focus on better things. I had a final project due in 3 days. I didn't have time to be spooked and haunted. That was what I told myself, anyway. Look, I tried to let it go. I tried to focus on editing Vampiric Undead Robots 3. The Wigglers for as long as I could. There are no Vampiric Undead Robots 1 or 2. As fascinating as my dumb film was, I couldn't get 7,591 out of my head. I relented after a particularly boring editing session and opened up the link again, just to see if it had changed again. The top was empty once again. In the middle of the page now was a single U. "Hello. Are you?" I started to jot each result down, just in case. It never hurt to be a little overly analytical. I opened Discord again to send a passive-aggressive, "Haha, you got me, now give it up" message into chat, only to find a message from Mike. "Hey man" was all it said. Mike was a man of few words and very little charisma. "Bro, be honest, am I being fucked with BC? It's kinda dumb, lol." I typed back. I just wanted to know. How was it possible for all of them to have read the best story they'd ever seen, with the story being different for each person, all from one Reddit link? The more I thought about it, the more I realized the stories my friends had described perfectly matched up with their interests. Liv loved weird body horror with female leads. Shredder was into Lovecraftian ocean stuff. Ghosty was super into true crime. Shawnee loved sweet stories portrayed through a horror lens. And Mike, I didn't really know what to make of Mike's. Mike was a slasher guy. His favorite movie is Terrifier 2, and he goes as Leatherface every year for Halloween. Maybe he had a newfound love of romance. He did cry his eyes out watching Notting Hill and The Notebook, so it wasn't that hard to believe. Regardless, I couldn't help but feel jealous again. Everyone else got a special curated story, but I just got a blank page and an unexplainable sense of dread. If there was a malevolent force at play here, all I really wanted to know was what I did to make it like me less than the others. I honestly have no idea what's going on. The story I read was fucking great, but I can't find it anymore, man. I hope you trust me. Mike said. I really did trust him. I had known him too long not to. Besides, he wasn't really the pranking type. I was his only close friend that lived anywhere nearby, and we had known each other since age 9. I feel bad sometimes when I think about Mike and how big of a crush he used to have on me. When Leica and I got close, he kinda got grouped in with all the others, even though I'd known him the longest. I know that it hurt him, and that's totally on me, but he was really cool about it. All any of us ever wanted was to make Leica as happy as she made us. Leica was a gloomy person with a lot of issues, but man did she know how to light up a room when it counted. I truly believe that all of us would have done anything for her. She wrote beautifully, she produced incredible scores for movies that would never exist, and above all, she always had a way of making people feel accepted. She wasn't overly nice or anything, but she was comforting. Despite all she had gone through, she was always the best shoulder to cry on. Fuck. I was talking about Mike, and there I go again, raving about Leica. If Leica was the love of my life, Mike was the friend of my life, if that makes any sense. I wish I'd treated him better. I trust you, what do you think is going on? I typed, unsure of how to respond. It's blank for me now. Has anything come up for you? I checked again. The top and middle were back to being totally blank. But at the bottom was the word there. Hello, are you there? I couldn't help but laugh at myself. I felt like I was going nuts. There was no doubt in my mind that this was a message meant for me and only me. I had spent my life preparing for horror movie scenarios. Spirits in my house or a killer on the loose. But this felt different. and I felt wholly unprepared, just scrying in the dark through a Reddit link that defied all comprehension. Nothing yet, I have to go to bed though, good night, love you dude. I sent to Mike, quickly closing the app and feverishly refreshing the page for the short story. I tried this for about 15 minutes, but nothing changed. I wondered if it was all over. I wondered if any of it had happened at all, or if years of horror movies and scary games had rotted away my synapses to the point that I was completely gullible. I was about to give up when the next word finally appeared. Sleep was in the middle of the page. Well, great. Now I was scared to sleep. I didn't sleep all night. I checked the page every few hours and nothing changed. Nothing but sleep. I watched the sun rise as my eyes grew crusty with sleeplessness, and eventually had to muster up the strength to waddle to class. I made it about halfway through the day before my body ran out of strength and school got too boring, and I passed out in the middle of class. Suddenly, I was wading in dark water, only illuminated by tiny pinprick stars in the empty black sky. From far away, I could hear some water sloshing in the distance. It was cold and uncomfortable at first, but soon came to be refreshing, like a swimming pool on a summer day. I felt the water clear as day, but the air had no real temperature to it. It was almost like there wasn't any at all. That's the only way I can explain it. Cold water and blank air. Hello, I called out in a voice softer than I had intended. I don't know why it came out like that, but from far away, I heard the water swish and saw a vague outline of a person turning around. I analyzed the figure for a little while before putting my cold, wet hands up to my mouth and letting out a shrill gasp. It was her. Unmistakably, it was her. I could see the shadow of her short, flippy brown bob and her thin frame. She was the right height. It was Laika. Without thinking, I swam through the water as fast as I could, trying to reach her. I had never even seen her in real life outside of the pictures she took of herself. This was the closest I had ever been. Even if she hadn't been missing for almost a year, I would still swim as fast as I was swimming then. I was getting closer. The water was getting colder. Much colder. It wasn't refreshing anymore. It chilled my body from the outside in, to the point that it started to burn. I could barely feel my hands, but I didn't stop until I got to her. I refused to. I came up from under the water and grabbed her tight. She was so warm. Someone so warm did not belong in these frigid waters soaked with stars. I looked her in her light brown eyes for just a second, scanned her freckle-filled face, and cupped her cheek with my hand, hot tears running down my face. My head is filled with a stinging pulse. It's eating me alive, spooky. Her eyes rolled in the back of her head, switching from caramel brown to blank orbs resembling the sparkling pitch-black sky. I woke up with a start, screaming and disrupting math class. I was white-knuckling my desk, and the ache of tense muscles started to set in. The professor escorted me out and asked me if everything was all right. I tried to explain myself, but I didn't know what parts to include and what parts to leave out, so I just ended up stammering out a string of nonsense. The professor took pity on me and excused me a few minutes early. She could tell even more than I could that I was a complete mess. That was a few days ago, but it still feels so fresh in my mind. I've been so haunted by that dream. Laika felt so warm. I felt everything. I felt her. I know I love fiction, but I'm a pretty level-headed person. I've always known what was real and what was fake. I knew that the ghosts and ghouls in the media I consumed wouldn't pop out of the screen or the pages and get me. And I knew that when I laid my head down I would be safe and wake up to live my normal life, making movies and fucking around online. I thought I had it all figured out until I got this stupid fucking link, and now my entire world feels like a movie. I don't know what any of it means, and I pride myself on being able to know what shit means, you know? Am I crazy for wanting to wade in that ice-cold water again, just to see her? All I know is that wading through that water and holding her felt more real than any interaction I'd ever had, let alone a dream. And I can't help but wonder if the link is responsible. Hello, are you there? That has to be from her, or maybe I'm just piecing shit together in an attempt to chase after this girl in some sort of way, to feel like somehow that she's out there looking for me as hard as I've been looking for you. Have any of you ever seen 7591, or talked to this from Thyri? Does anyone know Laika 722? Has anything even remotely like this happened to any of you? Has it happened to anyone? I need to know. If you can help me find her in any way, please. Please help. I had a traumatic experience as a teenager. Now it's happening again. I've been attending therapy since I was 17 years old, and I've kind of learned to suppress it with CBT and anti-anxiety/depression medication. But over the last few hours, I've been thinking a lot more about what happened to me. Today, a random woman joined my weekly book club out of the blue. Let's call her Karen. Karen wasn't invited. She just turned up at my door with Metamorphosis pressed to her chest. I didn't like the look of her from the get-go. She was the type I hated. Oh, look at me, I'm the perfect mom. I'm going to judge you behind your back while being sweet as sugar to your face. Still, I gave her a chance. The club was small, and we were looking for newbies, preferably young moms in their mid-20s. I invited her in, though I was cautious around her. I am comfortable with the other moms. They know about my past, or at least the parts one opened up about. They didn't question the medication piled in our bathroom cabinet. Karen would question it, so while I let her take off her coat and meet the other girls, I ran upstairs to rearrange my bathroom. The rest of the club welcomed her, and I got her a glass of juice. "Is it organic?" she asked, raising a perfectly plucked brow. Her words twisted my gut, but I forced a smile. Book club went okayish. Karen was as pretentious as I imagined, already teasing long-timer Isabella for bringing the Twilight series. Karen went on a long, winded rant about Metamorphosis, and how it spoke to her in ways she couldn't quite understand. We all clapped, because she expected us to. This woman actually stood up and bowed, and waited for her to sit down so Allie could talk about her book, Vampire Academy. The week's theme was vampires and books from our childhood. Karen didn't get the memo. Instead of letting Allie speak, she settled us with a smile. "This is a strange request," she said, chuckling. Her eyes found mine, and something twisted in my gut. I knew that look. Her words crashed into me like ice water, phantom bugs filling my mouth and skittering on my tongue. Karen held out the book like we were in show and tell. But could I act out the characters in my book? Here's the thing. Trauma can do a lot to your brain, both mentally and physically. I think that is the reason why I stood up, maintained my smile, and said, "No." Karen didn't protest, to my surprise. She nodded, took her book, and left. However, I couldn't concentrate for the rest of the meeting. I excused myself and went into the kitchen to grab a drink, before I realized I had poured all of my wine down the sink. Wine didn't help in the long term. It made me feel worse, overridden with guilt and pain. Pain that wouldn't fucking stop. When the others left, I was alone. I've never been alone without automatically self-destructing. After hours of driving myself mad with paranoia, I locked the doors and windows. I texted my fiancé to pick up our 5-year-old girl from school and take her straight to his parents' house. I did a lot of things I'm not proud of between texting my fiancé and binge eating through everything in our refrigerator. Food is my solace. I eat when I can't drink. So I took out my daughter's ice cream and scooped it out with my hands, stuffing myself with frozen treats. I wasn't thinking about Karen. I wasn't thinking about the fact that she was wearing a long-sleeved sweater in fucking Florida, a turtleneck sweater, and leggings that perfectly hid every patch of her. I met someone like Karen when I was 17. 7 years after my friends went missing. We were playing hide and seek in the park when they disappeared. I remember knowing exactly where they were from their shuffled footsteps and giggling. "Found you." The words were premature, however, when I found myself pointing at empty air. I barely noticed the sudden deep, impenetrable silence. Taya was gone. I couldn't see her red sneakers poking out anymore. So was Liam. He was behind the tree, and then he was gone. Kai! I tried his usual spot, half buried in the sandbox. But there was nothing. I was digging into nothing. I looked for them everywhere, until I started to break. Suddenly, the park was too big, and I was all alone. Then so did the police. Mom was crying a lot, and I spent a lot of time in the sheriff's office saying the same thing over and over and over again. Yes, I didn't see a stranger. No, I didn't see them walk away with anyone. No, I'm not lying. I can still remember the uncomfortable stuffy summer heat suffocating my face. My friends were officially missing. I sat in the sheriff's office and downed milk until it was coming back up my throat. "Becca, this is important. Did you see anyone in the park other than the children?" I said no. I kept saying no, until Mom came to gently pull me away. 0 leads and no suspects. According to my town, Taya, Liam, and Kai had dropped off the face of the earth. I grew up, and they did not. But I did have an unlucky nickname. Oh, she's the girl who was friends with those missing kids, which led people to speculate and somehow come to the conclusion that I was the perpetrator. When I started my junior year, a girl plopped herself on my desk. Dark brown hair pulled into pigtails and a heart-shaped face. She was president of the drama club. I didn't know her name, but I did know she was very passionate about her role in the theater. Or as she called it, the Viatar. When auditions were held for the school play, she was always first in line. The girl's smile was genuine, and somehow familiar enough for me to force one back. "I'm sorry about your friends." "Thanks." I thought that was the end of the conversation until she jumped up, grinning a little too wildly. "Did you know I won our school's acting contest? I came in first place, asterisk. Congratulations. That's really cool." I told her, hinting that I wanted to be left alone. The girl leaned close, her smile growing. "Becca, my best friend's dog died 3 weeks ago." Her expression seemed to contort wide eyes and a grinning mouth. Her eyes were what sold it, confusion and naivety of a child, mixed with excitement. When she let out a pant, and then a woof, I backed away. "But," the girl said in a low murmur, "I've been able to act out her dead dog for her." She laughed, and somehow, she retained the expression of a dog. "Do you know what's funny, Becca?" I think I responded. I wasn't sure I was able to move. The girl inclined her head, letting out a canine-like whine. "Ever since I was a kid, I've been able to act out anything." She started panting, half girl, half dog. But what terrified me was that if I suspended my disbelief, I could really believe I was sitting in front of a dog. The docile look, even the slight prick in her ears. Her eyes were suddenly so sad. "Your friends disappeared and you missed them." She leaned closer. Too close. I pulled away. The girl dropped the dog act, her demeanor morphing back into a teenage girl. "Do you want me to act them out for you?" I found my voice, trying not to snap at her. "I'm good," I said, biting back the urge to suggest a psych evaluation. The girl frowned. "But I'm actually really good." "No," I said, my tone was final and cold. "Go away." She inclined her head, and I felt part of me shatter, a sour slime creeping up my throat. This wasn't a dog she was embodying anymore. This was human and raw and fucking real. It brought back years of agony and guilt and growing up blaming myself. For a disorienting moment, I couldn't breathe. All of her, every part of her, had in that moment somehow embodied Taya. 10 years old, and then 17-year-old Taya. Child and teenager, my best friend who never grew up. Blinking rapidly, I was sure of it. Taya was standing in front of me. "Are you sure?" She leaned closer, her eyes turning playful, her lips twitching in the exact same way Kai tried not to smile. She even had his eyes. Taya morphed into Kai through pure expression. I was aware I was stumbling back when the girl stepped closer with a familiar laugh. "Liam." She folded her, his arms raising a brow. "Oh, you're sure, huh?" Her voice was a perfect blend of all three of them. "Suit yourself." I found my voice. Somehow. I wasn't proud of my words. I hated myself for asking, but it was so tempting, like I could really reach out and grasp them. "Can you do that again?" I asked, my hands trembling. The girl nodded, sitting in front of me. "Hey, Becca." Her smile, her voice, every part of her was Kai, and the more I listened to her, I started to hear his voice. "I'm sorry you couldn't find us." Kai shrugged. "But hey, we'll be out there somewhere." He was always so blunt. "Your drawing is bad. I think you should do it again." "Yes, you have lice. But don't worry, I can't see them. Not unless I get real close." His hand found my shoulder, and it was his. I felt his familiar grasp, the twitch in his fingers and his awkward pat. I didn't mean to, but I couldn't stop myself. "It's my fault," I told him, and it felt good. Fuck. It felt like weight being lifted from my chest. Kai sat back on the desk, crossing one leg over the other. I could still see the girl, but she was an afterthought, a shadow bleeding away. I was talking to Kai. I could see his slightly squinty eyes and the quirk of a smirk on his lips. "You were just a kid." His smile was both tragic and hopeful. "You had no idea." He reached out and ruffled my hair. "Besides, you lost hide and seek. We're still winning. But you've still got time to find us." Kai winked, and I lost all of my breath. His words sent me into hysterical sobs, and I knew it was bad. I knew it was unhealthy and very fucking wrong. But I couldn't stop. I became addicted to this girl, especially when she greeted me every day as Kai, Taya, and Liam. I would follow her around and beg this girl to impersonate my friends, and she would. I expected her to ask for cash, but she didn't. This girl perfectly embodied my friends without asking for anything in return, except praise. It was scary how good she was, and I didn't even know her name. She could personify them as teenagers too, perfecting their personalities, their mannerisms. All of them. At first, it was like having my friends back. I could greet them and laugh and joke with them. I went for day trips with them, and they felt real. But then I started to resent the girl for being there. No matter how hard I suspended my disbelief, I couldn't mentally cut her out. Her body, her face, everything that wasn't them, was ruining this facade. I started to hate myself for thinking like that. After long days of hanging out with my friends, or one singular girl, I went home and self-destructed. I hated her, the girl who could become my friends. I hated her for existing. I had to tell her before I went crazy. When she turned up at my house with Taya's hopeful smile, I let her in as usual. I grabbed her a soda, and she took it with a grateful smile. Is it organic? I forced a patient smile. It's soda. She cracked it open, taking an experimental sip. Her expression confused me. Had this girl ever had soda before? It's sugary. Can you stop? I blurted out, my voice choking up. Stop? The girl sipped her soda with a patient smile. With my smile, like looking in a mirror, this girl was mimicking every part of me, even the parts one was trying to keep hidden. My frustration and anger and pain, my resentment for her. I took a step backward, a sour-tasting barf creeping up my throat, and yet somehow she was better than me. Her emotions were deeper, more raw, better than anything I could pull off. For a disorienting second, I was staring at myself. A better fucking version of myself. She blinked, morphing into Taya once again. Her voice was small. What do you mean? This. I said, keeping my tone soft. All of this. The acting thing. I could feel myself starting to break. Because it was like saying goodbye all over again. I appreciate what you have done for me, I said. And I meant it. I really did. She had brought my friends back in ways I never could imagine. But it hurt. It fucking hurt seeing them, and yet not. There was only a certain amount of time I could suspend my disbelief before I started to lose my mind. And this was it. This was me losing my fucking mind. You can stop now, I said with what I hoped was a smile. I don't need you to act like them anymore. I held my breath, awaiting her reaction. I just want my friends back. That was a lie. Finding them would be agony. Dead or alive. I wanted to move on with my life. The girl's eyes widened, and I felt part of me shatter. But we did come back. Liam. I could see all of him. His confusion and anger for letting him disappear. Are you letting us go? Liam whispered. His fingers tightened around her soda can, and suddenly this girl was him. What I wanted her to be for the last several months. I could finally see him. What he should look like, thick brown hair and a matured face, a tragic smile flickering on his lips. He inclined his head. You don't want us to leave again, right? Liam. I didn't mean to say his name, but it felt so real, so raw on my tongue. He surprised me with a harsh laugh that rattled my skull. Wait, are you going to abandon us again? He raised a brow, and it was exactly how I imagined him to grow up. Wow, right. Kai's voice bled off her tongue so effortlessly, all of the breath was sucked from my lungs. It was lower, almost a grumble. You would think she'd hold on to us this time. His gaze flicked to me, accusing. Clearly not. I shook my head, squeezing my eyes shut so I wasn't looking the boys in the eye. This psycho bitch was holding their faces, voices, every part of them I had held dear to me, hostage. Stop! My heart was slamming into my chest aching. Liam scowled. Oh, you want us to shut up for good? Please. I emphasized the word, my voice breaking. Instead of focusing on Liam's eyes, I pushed through to reality. The girl underneath him with no name. It was so hard to shove him away again, treat him like he didn't exist. But I knew he didn't, and if he did still exist, my best friend wasn't alive anymore. I had often wondered what exactly happened to them. As a kid, my imagination ran wild. It had to. If I didn't imagine them being transported to a whole other world, or adopted by talking cats, I would start thinking of the more likely. I remember overhearing a conversation between two girls. "Oh, they're definitely dead in a ditch somewhere." "You can't say that." "What?" "It's true. Some sicko probably snatched them, tortured them, and buried them." To my disdain, they kept going. "If the killer is smart, he dismembered their bodies. If he's even smarter, he disintegrated what was left of them in a tub full of acid, burned their clothes, and made a break for it. Why do you care so much?" "I have to. This town is holding on to a miracle, and it's wrong." That day, I spent all afternoon with my head pressed against the cool porcelain of a toilet seat, puking up my bile. I had intentionally been ignorant to the inevitability of them being dead. Mom had to talk with me halfway through my sophomore year, when the non-existent trail went cold. I screamed at her and told her she was wrong. There was a memorial in the children's park with their names. I ignored it. I didn't go to the candlelit vigil, because my friends were still alive. I had been so ignorant, choosing to wear rose-tinted glasses. But at that moment, I finally accepted it. I didn't realize I was sobbing until my legs were dangerously close to giving way. "Stop." To my surprise, she actually did drop the facade. I heard her let out a sigh. When I risked opening my eyes, the girl's expression had relaxed, and I saw her again. But what frightened me was that even when this girl was herself, she was a blank slate. Fine. She held no real expression. Smiling, but also not. Frowning, but it wasn't her frown. Zero emotion of her own, but a natural at embodying others. This girl was still acting, still putting on a performance, even as herself. "What's your name?" I asked before I could stop myself. "You never told me." The girl shrugged with a half smile, another perfectly constructed expression. "I don't actually know." I watched her skip into my kitchen and pull open the drawer. I followed her. My first thought was that she was hungry. I was going to tell her to help herself. But then I caught this girl dragging her index finger over an assortment of my mother's kitchen knives. She settled on one with a wooden handle, pricking her finger on the blade. "I'm not really sure anymore, Becca. I've never had a name. Paralyzed to the spot, I couldn't move. I'm calling the police," was all I managed to choke out. She did a slow head incline. "But I thought you wanted me to stop." When I didn't or couldn't respond, she hastily pulled up the sleeve of her jacket, tracing the knife edge across rugged stitches under her elbow. I watched her slice into them one by one, severing the appendage that was barely hanging on. In one swift slice, it was hanging off, and yet there was no pain in her eyes. "Okaway, you win." Taya's murmur shattered on her tongue, bleeding into more of a screech. What was left of her arm, mutilated patchwork skin, landed on the floor with a soft thump. I remember staring down at it, at twitching fingers that looked familiar. I was aware I was stumbling back, but something kept me glued to the spot. With half of Taya's smile melting down her face, the girl plunged the knife into her right eye, carving it from the socket. She squeezed what was left of it into bloody pulp between her fingers. This time I could see pain, agony, but it wasn't hers. Her expression contorted, 3 different faces, 3 different voices. "But can you tell me?" She stabbed into her other eye, carving it out with her fingers. There. Her real voice was nothing, oblivion soaked in a hellish silence that rattled my skull. I staggered back when she tore the knife into her gut, slicing into stitches that were worn and old, melding dead flesh with hers. I was left staring at a patchwork girl with patchwork skin, patchwork legs, patchwork arms. Am I still a good actor? Kai, Liam, and Taya whispered, their voices melted together. The 3 of them lurched towards me, an amalgamation of twitching body parts. I could see where parts of them had been severed and ripped apart and glued to her. I could see the stitches across her neck and forehead, where she had pasted my friend's flesh to her own. I could see Liam's arm hanging rigid, Kai's eye hanging loose in its socket, Taya's arms and mutilated torso holding her together. I think part of me was delusional. I thought I could save them, even in this state, molded together and stitched onto this girl. I thought I could bring them back. That's why I stood frozen, while this thing grabbed one of my mom's paperweights and slammed it over my head. When I awoke, I was tied down to the dining room table. There was something sticky over my eyes and mouth. Duct tape. I screamed, but my cries only came out in muffled pants. It's sad, Becca. Liam's voice was eerily cold, polluted and wrong, a mixture of child and adult. I really did want to be your friend. I felt slimy fingers lift up my shirt, the ice-cold prick of a blade tracing my skin. She stabbed the blade into my gut, and I remember feeling pain like I had never felt before. Searing hot and yet icy cold, the feeling of being ripped apart. Taya's voice sent my body into fight or flight, my back arching, my wrists straining against duct tape restraints. I told you I was a good actress. Kai spoke through gritted teeth. He emphasized his words by digging the knife deeper, twisting until I was screeching, my body contorting. I could feel it penetrating through me, pricking at my insides. I could feel warm stickiness pooling underneath me, gluing my hair to the back of my neck. But you don't care. His voice was suddenly too close, tickling my ear. You won't even let me tell you my story. I was barely conscious when the knife scraped across my arm. I felt the tease of tearing me apart, ripping me limb from limb, just like them. She didn't even have to speak, only grazing the blade over my arms and legs, drawing blood across my cheek. I felt the knife slice into me, slowly, and I knew she was going to take her time. I haven't figured you out yet, Becca, she hummed. I want to mold you perfectly. She dragged the blade across my skin. You're my starring role. I want to get you just right. Swimming in and out of consciousness, I waited to die. A loud bang startled me, but it wasn't enough to pull me from the fog. Before I knew what was happening, the girl made up of my friends was being dragged away by the people in white, and I was screeching through sobs. My body felt wrong, like it was no longer attached to me. The girl disappeared from my sight, and I was left staring dazedly at the ceiling, stars dancing in my eyes. I kept saying it until my throat was raw. I found them. When the paramedics arrived, I was still screaming garbled words mixed with puke. They're there! I shrieked, over and over and over again, until a mask was choking my mouth and nose. I was put back together, and my friends were not. I had real stitches and scars across my body. They were still prisoners. The sheriff came to see me, informing me that Stella, her apparent real name, had been arrested for kidnapping and attempted murder. My attempted murder. I can't say I was fully with it from the drugs, but the sheriff definitely knew what I was saying. He said things like, "Oh, you're not thinking straight. Let me come back later." When I told him the girl who tried to kill me was made up of the missing kids, that she had killed them and stitched and knitted their body parts to her own body, he just shook his head and told me to get some rest. But I saw that look in his eye, that slight twitch in his lips. He knew exactly what I was talking about. Even worse, this bastard was trying to hide it. In the space of 3 days, Stella no longer existed. I was told the perpetrator had been transferred to a psychiatric facility for young people. Taya's mother slapped me across the face when I told her that her daughter was dead and Stella was wearing her. I was called an insensitive, highly disturbed child. My own mother threatened to disown me if I didn't keep my mouth shut. So I shut my mouth. I graduated high school, moved out of town, and never looked back. I cut my mom out of my life, because fuck that. Presently, I was trying to call Adam. The sky was dark through the windows, and my head was filled with fog. When someone knocked, I was already on my feet, a kitchen knife squeezed between my fingers. I had been waiting for her. I always fantasized what I was going to do to Stella when I found her again. Sometimes, I wanted to plead with her to give them back to me. While others, I imagined myself hacking the bitch apart to get them back. But when she was standing at my door 15 years later, I found myself frozen. I thought if I could stay still and quiet, she might go away. Becca? My fiancé's voice was like a wave of cool water coming over me. Bex, why is the door locked? I don't know how I caught a hold of myself. Sorry. I managed to call to him, grabbing a towel and scrubbing my face. I was opening the door, trying to think of an excuse for my momentary lapse in sanity, when Karen stepped inside in 3 heel clacks. She was wearing Adam's face. Becca, what happened? The first thing I saw was the clumsy line of stitches across her forehead. Adam's voice dripped from her tongue, phantom bugs filling my mouth, seeing every part of my fiancé molded into her face. His awkward smile and the twitch in his eye, that curl in his lip when he was trying not to laugh. I could see fresh skin grafts glued to her face, intentionally clumsy. She wanted me to see Adam, or what was left of Adam. The girl pulled me into a hug, and something warm and wet dripped onto my shoulder, oozing down my arm. Her body pressed against mine felt loose somehow, like she wasn't yet complete. Mommy, I like Stella. Phoebe. She had my daughter's voice. Her face. The way she scrunched up her eyes when she was excited. She's really nice. Phoebe's giggle burst from her mouth. Before I could utter a word, the woman leaned forward, whispering in my ear, my fiancé's low murmur grazing the back of my neck. Do you remember the old theater in our town? Be there at 11 tonight to watch our showcase, and there might just be a little surprise waiting for you. Karen left, but I was still standing there, seconds, minutes, and a full hour passing by. I vaguely remember my neighbor asking if I was okay. I told her I was fine. Where's your daughter? She asked. I don't think I've seen Phoebe today. She's at her grandfather's. I responded. Okay, but where's your fiancé? Becca, are you all right? This woman was always sticking her nose over our fence. She thrived on gossip, calling me out for being a bad mom when I missed Phoebe's school play. She was the human embodiment of a pickaxe knocking at my skull. I told her to mind her own business. I got into my car and drove back to my hometown, to the old theater that was shut down when I was a teenager. The place was run down, and I'm pretty sure it was a temporary homeless shelter at some point. The main entrance was locked, so I tried the fire door. Becca! Adam's voice echoed down the hallway when I managed to squeeze myself inside. I'm in the theater. I started towards a flickering light, only for it to fizzle out. Don't you want popcorn first? The new voice sent me into a stumbling run. Liam. But it was 26-year-old Liam. Reaching the end of the hallway, I turned right. It's left. Taya's laugh was older, and I found myself sprinting towards it. Come on, Becca, you're going to miss the movie. Kai joined in. When I reached the theater, it was exactly how I remembered it, a large oval-like room with plush red seats. Descending the steps, my shadow bounced across the old cinematic screen. Take a seat. Adam's voice. I asked Stella where my daughter was, only to get Phoebe's laugh in response. I'm here, Mommy. My daughter's voice had me sinking into a seat, my heart in my throat. The screen flashed on, blinding white, and I glimpsed several figures around me in the audience. There was a shadow next to me. When I twisted around, I realized it didn't have a head. Looking closer, its arms were pinned behind its back. Eyes forward, Becca. You're not allowed spoilers. Taya's voice giggled. The screen illuminated with what looked like old footage. It was a park. The camera zoomed in, capturing 10-year-old me with my face pressed against a tree. I felt the urge to get up, to escape from the screen, but I couldn't tear my eyes away. This was the footage that had haunted me my entire life, the reason I had been driving myself fucking crazy. Hide and seek, my younger self announced cheerfully, turning to my friends. You guys hide, and I'll find you. Liam folded his arms. But why can't I count and you hide? I pushed him playfully. Because I'm older. By 1 month. Ignoring his protest, I turned away and began counting to 20. Liam and Taya darted behind trees while Kai crouched in the sandbox, urging the others to stifle their giggles. I watched the moment I had been waiting for my whole life. Even now, I scanned the park through the screen for any signs of strangers. Strangers I swore weren't there when I was a child. I sat, paralyzed, half expecting a mysterious figure to swoop in and whisk my friends away. But that didn't happen. I was still counting. 8, 9, 10. Liam suddenly emerged from his hiding spot, one hand covering his eye that was slipping from its socket. A wave of revulsion slowly crept up my throat. Taya stumbled out from behind the tree, her arms severed, dangling awkwardly. She tried in vain to reattach it, tears in her wide eyes, though she wasn't crying out. Kai struggled from the sandbox, his head unnaturally tilted, hands desperately clawing at his neck to keep it in place. Where was the stranger? My mind was spinning. There was no stranger. Instead, a familiar face appeared. She rushed over to them, gesturing for them to be quiet. Mom. Mom was harsh with the three, grabbing and yanking them away. When Liam's eye rolled across the floor, she picked it up, stuffing it in her pocket. Her gaze met the camera for 1 single second, and she pulled a face. Don't bother, Lily. Mom spat. Unless you want the entire town to know about your husband's infidelity. The camera footage faded out, white text appearing on the screen. End. Smiley face. I only had to see one frame, which was my mother standing in front of a room full of parents, a sign looming over her head with the words, "For a better tomorrow," for me to lurch to my feet. But I couldn't tear my eyes from the screen. Mom's eyes were on the camera, wide and proud. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you. The movie ended, the cinema screen going dark. Where is my daughter? I didn't realize I was screaming. Adam! Tomorrow, Becca. My fiancé's voice bounced around the room, but I couldn't see him. Come back tomorrow, all right? You need to watch the rest of the movie. The lights flickered on, and I was alone. Phoebe was gone. Adam was gone. The shadow next to me had already slipped away. I left the theater, and I'm in my car right now. I'm waiting for that psycho to come back. I've called my mom, but she's not answering. I haven't spoken to her in years, but the least she could do is answer her phone. She owes me an explanation. I'm so fucking scared I've lost my daughter. I can't lose her too. Edit. I just saw the sheriff walking into the theater. There's no other reason why he'd be going inside, unless he's in on whatever this is. If the sheriff is in on this, who else is? I often browse through our /Gone Wild. I like girls in addition to liking guys. Girls are different though. They're beautiful creatures that deserve to be appreciated and respected. I don't like the way guys talk to girls on there. I know that the girls like it, but they can do better than that. Talk like that often leads somewhere they may not like. A friend of mine saw me perusing through the pages of nude girls, and her face went white. I asked her what was wrong, and she told me a seriously disturbing story. In her words, this is it. About a year ago, I was dumped by a guy after a short month. He was the fifth in only 6 months. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't make anyone fall in love with me. I couldn't make a relationship last more than a month. I was depressed. I found myself browsing porn sites, wishing I looked like those girls. Those were the types of girls guys wanted. I almost wished I enjoyed giving head or getting fucked in the ass, but I didn't. By accident, I discovered Reddit, and not long after our /Gone Wild. At first, I only looked. I envied. I wished I could have that attention. I craved it. I decided that was what I wanted. I could be whoever I wanted to be. My first post wasn't all that wild, really. I used my elbows to squeeze my breasts together and, at the same time, hiding my nipples. However, the responses were overwhelming. Guys begged to see more of me. I made them wait. It was a whole week before my second post. I felt like I had been looking forward to it, though. It was a bit more wild. A picture in pink lingerie. They asked me to show more skin. They called me beautiful and listed in detail things they wanted to do to my body. I couldn't wait a whole week this time. My third post was only 2 days later. A shot of my uncovered breasts. They all said such dirty things. I didn't really like all that dirty talk, but the character I made for myself, Karina, she did. I played this character and talked dirty right back. The very next day, I posted a full body nude. That was the first time he commented. He said, "Someone so gorgeous deserves someone worthy of her." It stood out because it wasn't a dirty comment. It was sweet and innocent. I thanked him. The day after, I did my first album. I included a few shots of my boobs, my butt, and some of me caressing myself. Of course, they loved them all. Upvotes galore. I was almost famous, it seemed. All of it was going to my head. I was getting overconfident. I started taking shots almost everywhere I went. I would take them in public bathrooms, dressing rooms, and do upskirt shots in restaurants and on park benches. Honestly, I was a bit out of control. He commented on all of them. He never said anything offensive. He was polite, yet he was on that subreddit for the same reason as the others. I received a private message from him after about a month of posting. It read, "I would love you if you were mine." I wasn't sure what to say, but I didn't want to be rude. He was giving me the attention I wanted anyways. I replied with, "You wouldn't if you knew me." His reply was strange, but I thought nothing of it. "But I do know you." I laughed it off. I meant in real life. His reply was a link to a picture. I clicked it, and my heart stopped. It was me at the mall looking through lingerie. How did I not notice someone watching me? I wanted to call the cops, but I felt as though I'd brought it on myself by posting on the internet. He sent me another message. It made my skin crawl. "I want you to wear that pretty red lingerie for me when I fuck you." He knew what I bought. I hadn't posted a picture in that yet. I felt sick. I logged off immediately. I wasn't sure what to do. I couldn't tell anyone. I didn't want anyone to know I'd been posting my nudes all over the internet for attention. I decided that I could delete my account. He didn't know where I lived. He just knew I went to that mall from my other pictures. If you were a local, it was easy to recognize. I logged back in. There was another message waiting for me. It was another link. I didn't want to click, but I needed to know what it was. I wish now that I hadn't. It was me sitting in class at my college. It was taken through the little glass window on the door. I was taking notes. I never even noticed. How long had he been watching me? I needed to find out how he found me. I must have left some clue in my pictures. I went through them one by one. I couldn't find anything. Then I saw it. In every picture, on my right hand, my class ring. He knew what college I went to because of my class ring. I wondered if he was also a student. What if he was near me all the time without me knowing? I deleted my account. I took all my pictures off Imager. I stayed home from school the next day. I was afraid to leave my house. Around 4 that afternoon, I received a Facebook message from a girl named Charlotte. I don't remember adding her as a friend, but I must have. I click on her profile before reading her message. I know her from class. Relief floods through me. Her message asked if I would like to join her study group and that, if I was interested, they were meeting after school at the coffee shop just off campus. I needed to learn what I had missed during my absence, so I agreed and said I would see her after class. The next day, I waited at the coffee shop. I ordered a mocha and sat in the corner. I didn't want to draw too much attention to myself, since I was alone. I pulled out my laptop and got on Facebook while I waited. I wondered if maybe Charlotte had canceled the study session. No new messages from her though. I had an uneasy feeling. I went back to her profile and noticed something I should have noticed before. I was her only friend. She had no recent post history. She only had one photo. I slammed my laptop shut, threw my coffee away, and left immediately. I felt like someone was following me. I glanced around, paranoid. I couldn't go home. I didn't know if they might be waiting for that, so that they knew where I lived. What if they already knew? I was scared. I started crying. A man approached me and asked if I was all right. He touched my arm gently. I flinched away like I was burned and ran. I went into a store to hide. I watched the door, terrified it would open, and my stalker would find me. That's what he was at that point, a stalker. I didn't know who he was, and that was the scariest part. He could be anyone. I started crying again. I couldn't leave the store. I sat down on one of the little benches for trying on shoes. I sat there until a lady told me they were closing, and that I had to go. I stepped outside and it was dark. He could be waiting for me. I would have been safer in the daytime. I panicked. I turned around and started yanking on the door. She had already locked it behind me. She was walking back to the register. I started banging on the door and screaming. I couldn't be alone. Please let me in. Let me back in. I pounded on the glass repeatedly. Please, don't leave me out here with him. She came back. I was so grateful. She unlocked the door and let me back in, locking it again behind us. She then called the police. I lied to them. I had to lie. I didn't want them to know how stupid I had been. I said I met him on the internet, and I had no clue how he knew where I lived. I told them about the fake Charlotte Facebook account and the pictures of myself he sent me. There wasn't anything they could do without proof, and since I deleted my Reddit account, I didn't have anything except Facebook messages. I was a mess. They escorted me home and said they would have an officer on my block all night. I barely slept at all. The next day, I was afraid to leave my apartment. I received another message from fake Charlotte. It read, "I saw you at the coffee shop. Why did you leave?" I strained my mind, struggling to remember the people in the coffee shop around me. But the truth was, none of them stood out. They were just regular people. My stalker looked normal. If he had been wearing a bright purple top hat with a matching suit and held a giant sign that read, "I'm stalking you," maybe I'd have noticed, and still just maybe. The truth is, I'm almost always unaware of the things around me. My stalker was right there, and I couldn't tell. I contacted the police department and told them about the new message. They took note of it and said the officer would be on my block again that night to keep me safe. What about during the day though? How was I supposed to go outside? I blocked the fake Facebook account and made sure all my doors were locked. I closed my blinds in every room and turned on all the lights. I ate ramen noodles and watched Netflix. I fell asleep on my couch. I was awoken by the text buzzing of my phone. It was from a strange number. I opened it. I like Clueless too. I covered my mouth to stifle a sob. That was the movie I had been watching when I had fallen asleep. I called 911 and told them someone was in my house. The officer on my block knocked on my door just a minute later. I showed him the text and told him I thought the guy was in my house. He searched the house, gun drawn, and found nothing. No sign of forced entry on any of the doors or windows. However, he did discover that you could see my TV clearly through my blinds. They tried to track the number, but it was a text-free account, and the name and email address it was connected to turned up nothing. He knew where I lived. I wanted to leave and go stay with a friend, but I knew he would just follow me. Instead, I invited my older brother to stay at my house for a few days. I told him about what was going on and pleaded that he stay to protect me. After hearing my story, he decided he would stay until they caught the guy. My brother lived nearby, so it wasn't a big deal. However, he still had to leave me to go to work. During those hours, I paced, constantly peering out the windows and jumping at the slightest noise. When my brother Sean was home, I stayed in the same room at all times. I made him take me grocery shopping. I couldn't go alone. I stopped going to school. I needed someone to catch this guy. For the first few days Sean stayed, I heard nothing from my tormentor. I was relieved, but at the same time, it felt like the calm before the storm. On the fourth day, I got a text from a different number than before. 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. It was Sean's work schedule. He knew when I would be alone. I sunk down against the counter sobbing. It was 12 p.m. on a Saturday. He had 6 more hours before Sean got home. I phoned the cops. They tried tracking the number again, but same as before, nothing. I contemplated suicide. My hair was falling out. I couldn't sleep. I had chewed my nails down until they bled. Weeks went by. I received text after text, all from different numbers. They all told me he was watching. At some point, I decided I couldn't be a victim anymore. I had my brother go with me to get a gun license. I bought a Ruger compact pistol. I spent a lot of money I didn't have on that gun and went to a shooting range to learn how to use it. He wasn't going to fuck with me anymore. Sean offered to take off work to stay and watch over me, but I refused. Instead, after he left, I went out. I wanted to bait my stalker. I needed to know who he was. I needed him to slip up and reveal himself accidentally. So, I went out window shopping. I flipped through racks of clothes and tried on shoes. I watched the people around me, but I didn't notice anyone watching, and I didn't see anyone twice. I didn't receive any texts. It was like he knew I was trying to catch him. He stopped for a week. I started going back to school. My first day back, he sent me a picture of myself at my desk. Again, it was through the glass window in the door. My head snapped to the right. He was already gone. I excused myself from class. When I got out in the hall, I didn't know which way he had gone. I didn't know what he looked like. I had left my gun in my car. I couldn't take it in the school. It was hidden under my seat. I felt a lot less brave without it. I weighed my stalker's options. Left led to the lunch quarters, and right led out to the main office and visitor parking. Assuming he wasn't a student, I went right. I ran. I reached the parking lot and saw a car leaving. I didn't know that it was my stalker, but I memorized the license plate and saved it in my phone. After that, I went to the front office and asked to speak with security personnel. A balding, overweight man who fit the donut stereotype spoke with me. I told him about my situation and asked him if I could see the security footage from the time that I was in class and received the photo. He allowed me to see it. During the moment I received the photo, he was already gone, but before that, a guy in a black hoodie watched through the window for nearly 10 minutes before snapping the photo. It was sent a few minutes later after he'd already gone. I felt defeated. He was smarter than I thought. The car I saw pulling out couldn't have been him. I asked him to play the footage from when he was coming down the hall, when he would be facing the cameras. He kept his head low, but I could see he was white with dark hair. I couldn't see much more than that. I had the security guy send it over to the police. They were able to determine his height and guess his weight. They put him at 6 feet 4 inches and around 200 pounds. They put pictures of him and the only information they had on flyers and had them tacked all around the college. They urged anyone who had seen him to call. They received a few calls. Someone had seen his face. His description was put out on the news. I felt better than I had in weeks. I finally had him. They were gonna get him. That night, I got a call. It was panting and grunting. It sounded like someone jacking off over the phone. I was pretty sickened and hung up. I got another text. I'm going to fuck you before they get me. I didn't answer as always, but this time he kept going. I love those little black panties you're wearing. I was wearing black panties. I was frozen with fear. You know that sexy little yellow dress in your closet? It smells nice. I bolted out of the room and grabbed my purse, whipping out the gun. I fumbled to turn off the safety. He was in my closet. I went back to my room and ripped open the closet door and fired. I managed to blow a hole in the back of my closet wall, as well as make my ears ring worse than I thought possible. I had another text. Nope, not in there. I hope the panties I took aren't your favorite. You left them in the bathroom floor. He was in my house. He had taken my underwear. He had been in my closet. I hadn't been able to do anything. I updated the cops, and they tried again to track the number. I knew they wouldn't find anything, so I changed mine. I would no longer know he was watching me. I can't say which is worse, knowing or not knowing. Since he couldn't text me, he would have to find another way to contact me. And he did. He started another Facebook account. This time it was a guy named Chance. Someone also from class. You're cute. I was wondering if maybe you'd like to go out for drinks sometime. I knew it wasn't Chance. Chance was gay. But I sent back, I would love to. What place did you have in mind? He told me to meet him at a bar on the north side of town. It was an old bar, and it didn't get a lot of business. There would probably be no one there. I told my brother, and he let the police know, just so my stalker wouldn't see me communicating with the police. I made a show out of getting ready for my date. I got ready in my room, where I already knew he could see though my blinds. I wore the yellow dress. My heart was beating way too fast. Sean told me that the police would be watching and not to worry. I drove to the bar and stood outside in my yellow dress. I was a bright splotch in the darkness. I could barely breathe. A car pulled up next to mine. It was a shitty navy blue Ford Probe. I waited, holding my breath. No one got out. At the last second, he reversed and peeled out of there pretty fast. The undercover cop parked across the street sped after him. They caught him. Do you know who tortured me all that time? Do you know who ruined my life all because of some naked pictures on the internet? A fucking kid. He was a 16-year-old dropout who spent all his time fapping to his computer screen. When he saw my class ring and realized I was so close, he became obsessed with having the real thing. I still have nightmares because this fucked up little brat couldn't get some. This is a warning to you, girls of our / gone wild. Watch what you put in your pictures. Be wary of everyone. Don't lead anyone on, and if someone starts harassing you, don't wait to tell someone. Protect yourself and your identity. Never show your face in a post or give out your location, phone number, etc. You don't want to go through what I did. Edit 1. Everyone wanted to know what happened to the kid, and the answer is, sadly, he got a slap on the wrist and some community service time. His parents were well known in the community for having money, so I assumed they were able to pay someone off. I got a restraining order and moved to another state. I hide in my house a lot to this day. I'm still afraid, even after finding out he was just a kid. I have no idea what he had planned to do to me. Had they not caught him, I might not be here. Some days, I wish that I had shot him, but honestly, I don't need that on my conscience. I had never seen my attacker face to face until my day in court. When I finally did and learned his age, it didn't make him any less terrifying. But knowing he was just a kid made me think that, if this child could do all these horrible things and get away with it, that had it been an adult, I wouldn't still be here. I'm glad my story has been read by so many people, and I hope everyone learns to be more careful on the internet. Edit 2. He did get my number from Facebook. If you were my friend, you could see it. He friended me twice on 2 separate fake accounts. Both were people I actually had class with. He had taken the time to get their names and picture, so I wouldn't think anything of it. One thing I have learned is pay attention. If something seems off, don't trust it. Thanks to Facebook's check-in, he was able to get my address from a status. Don't check in. Don't tell people exactly where the fuck you are. That's stupid. I was an idiot who didn't think twice about it until the wrong person got a hold on that information. Edit 3. I would like to remind you all that I'll be there, am not the girl in the story. I stated at the beginning that she is a friend, She allowed me to post her story here and has answered your questions using my account. She does not have one of her own anymore, nor will she ever again. I myself have been stalked, but nothing like this. I also am the type to insist I can handle it on my own. A guy once followed me in the dark from one club to the next, shouting vulgarities at my back. I used to carry a knife because, around here, girls go missing a lot. I honestly don't know why my friend chose to move here. I told him to fuck off. He didn't listen. He was drunk. He approached me and tried to grab me. I whipped out the knife and held it against him, swearing that if he didn't leave me alone, he'd be sorry. He immediately let me go. That doesn't always work. I learned quickly that you never walk alone. If you're leaving, have a couple people walk you out or a security guard. Parking lots are a very common place for bad things to happen. I asked my friend if I could share her story because it shook me up pretty badly and made me think about how a lot of us aren't as careful as we should be. Edit 4. I don't appreciate those of you saying that she deserved it. She didn't deserve for that to happen to her, and you should be ashamed of yourselves for saying she did. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. She posted those pictures because she was lonely and she needed to feel wanted. Many girls feel that way, especially after someone dumping them. She wasn't doing it to be slutty, although I will admit that the fact she was doing it everywhere she went was a bad move on her part. She drew way too much attention to herself. However, she learned her lesson. We've all been young and dumb at some point in our lives, and it's not your place to pass judgment on her. Edit 5. I'm trying to answer everyone's questions. If I didn't get to yours, feel free to inbox me, and I will answer it. A lot of you have asked how he managed to break in without being caught, especially more than once. The answer, sadly, is that he had his own key. Everyone keeps a spare key, whether it be over the door frame, under the flower pot, under the doormat, or, in this case, inside a fake rock. They're too easy to obtain to make a copy. He never had to break in. Every time she locked the door, he simply unlocked it. Something as easy as changing the locks could have prevented half of this. But she never knew until they found a copy of her house key on him. This was why there was never a sign of forced entry. Edit 6. I went to work and came home to so many more messages and questions. I cannot get to all of them, but I tried to at least answer all the messages. If I didn't get to yours, please resend it as it is likely lost in the others. I also have received a few trolling messages. Don't troll my inbox. Troll comments, but don't be a dick and take it to a personal level. I also have had someone go through and downvote all of my posts, like every single one. Dude, you have way too much free time on your hands. Get out of the house. Go to school. Find a job. Meet someone. See the sunlight. There's more to life than the internet. You downvoted my rats. That's hurtful. What did they ever do to you? Anyways, I would like to thank those of you who appreciated this story and shared your own. People have mentioned X posting to our /Let's Not Meet. Feel free to do a post and link it to the page. I'm fine with that. Everyone stay safe. I hope you take something away from this, whether it be a lesson or simply an adrenaline rush from reading something scary. On a side note, some of you should really read the sidebar of our /Nosleep. There's some valuable info over there you might be missing. Edit 7. I would like to help you all browse the internet safely. A VPN is a private network that will hide your real location. You can choose a location, or it will automatically provide one for you. I urge all of you to install this software. There are many that provide free services. It will slow your internet a bit, however. That's a better option than someone tracking you. Not only that, but it will keep credit card numbers safe when you make purchases online. Please never give anyone your real name on the internet or your personal accounts such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or anything you might use your real name on. If you absolutely 100% trust them, then go ahead, but that is your choice. A video is never proof a person is who they say unless they can do exactly as you tell them. Simulated webcams are very common. Don't give out your phone number or your Snapchat. I know there's a r/Nosleep story about Snapchat. Be safe. Everyone on the internet is a stranger, and you have no idea what kind of person they are.